The thing about execution is you cannot be afraid to confront the truth, okay? This is why it's so important that you have to measure. There has to be a measurement system in place for the execution process, okay? So effective measurement comes down to lead and lag indicators, okay? What is a lead indicator? What is a lag indicator? A lag indicator, think about lagging, it comes after the fact. That's the result. That's the new business partner. That's the application when you sign up a new policy. That's the new account that you open up as an investment account. That's the assets under management that you acquire. That's the cash flow. Ultimately, we get paid twice a week in our business. That's 8 to 10 times a month, depending on the month, the way the cycles follow. Think about that. That's amazing. Most people get paid twice a month. We get paid 8 to 10 times a month, depending on the month. Okay, that's fascinating. Today, there's going to be a paycheck. Okay, that is a lag indicator. You don't just get a paycheck without working. The money comes from what you do through the lead indicator. The lead indicator is your activity. The amount of phone calls you made yesterday, the day before, to reach out to people. The number of appointments that you had or you're going to have, right? Why do I make a phone call, send a text message, send a video? However you communicate is so I can get an appointment with somebody. And whether that appointment is face-to-face or via webinar, whatever works. Face-to-face is, of course, the ideal situation, right? But I've done plenty of webinars just this week that were very successful as well, right? Guests to the meeting. When we have a presentation, next week, we're going to have a big presentation for webinar. We also have presentations every Tuesday at the office for new guests, right? So how many people do you actually get to see that? Referrals. How many referrals? That's a lead indicator, right? Attendees at the meeting, right? Your associates. So how many associates do you have listening to the webinar? Those are people being exposed and learning what they need to do to win in the business. So the lead indicators is all the activity that leads to the result that will directly affect what we get paid on Fridays and Tuesdays, okay? You have more control over your activity than results. That's the bottom line. Sometimes it can be very frustrating, right? You're like, oh, I didn't get a result. I didn't get my new member. I didn't get that new account. That, well, how many activities did you do? How many appointments did you do? My experience, you need to do between 3 and 5 appointments to get one result. That's it. But I've got to reach out to about 10 people to get usually 3 appointments, 10 to 15, depending. So I got to reach out to about 10 to 15 people to get 3 appointments. From those 3 appointments, I should get one result. Okay? Now you need to track this. That's why it's important. Everybody's numbers are a little bit different. When I started, of course, I wasn't as experienced. I was in the awkward stage of learning, right? Whenever I would speak, it didn't come out perfect. But I stumbled through it. I felt the fear, but I let my prefrontal cortex drive me, right? That amygdala, man, that was making me scared. But then I thought about, man, I want my goal, right? So I went from awkward to a mechanical stage, and then I became natural. But I had to go through those stages. And the way you go through that is through working. And then you will also improve how many contacts you make, how many appointments to get that result. You will become more efficient, but that comes with time. You track your weekly activity. So you need to look back every 7 days and say, well, what happened? What did I do, right? Blocking your time out, okay? Very important. We're going to talk about that. When you block out your time, you need to have strategic blocks of time, okay? The strategic blocks of time are the most important part. That's 3 hours a day, okay? If you're part-time, call it an hour and a half a day. If you're full-time, 3 hours a day. These are pre-planned tasks that make you money and help your team. Contacting share lists, clients, appointments. So that is where you're actually taking the action of the business that leads to a result. That's a strategic block. You also need to have buffer blocks, okay? Buffer blocks are important as well, okay? The buffer block, okay, that's the part where you actually spend time checking emails, okay? That's the part where you check your voicemails, go online, do all that part. That part is important, but guess what? It's not that important. You need to do it because that's part of business, but that part should only be 30 minutes per day, maximum 2 one-hour sessions. Not 2 hours in a row, 2 one-hour sessions where you break it down, okay? And then the third block, you need to have 3 hours a week. Okay, now this might be hard if you're working during the day, but 3 hours a week during normal business hours, away from the business. This is the time where you recharge the battery, okay? Where you sharpen the saw, okay? So these are called our breakout blocks. You need that time because you don't want to get burned out. When you get burned out, you know what you're doing? You're working hard, but you're not getting anywhere. It's like somebody trying to chop down a tree with a dull axe. You got to sharpen that axe. You got to sharpen that saw, okay? So that you've got to create a system in your life that allows you to focus in. If you notice, heavily weighted in the strategic block, a little bit of time in the buffer block, and some time in the entire week in where you can recharge that battery, okay? Accountability, so important, right? When we have corporate jobs or we're at school, we're being accountable, we're being graded, right? Or we're getting an A or a B, or, you know, and my son, they're meeting progress or behind, right? They're either progressing, meeting, or they're lagging, right? So, or it's A, B, F, whatever your scoring is. Well, you gotta be accountable yourself too. Because if you're not accountable, you're not gonna grow, right? And it's not about consequences. It's about ownership, okay? You do it because you choose to, not because you have to, okay? If you get an opportunity to be mentored by one of the SMDs here in our business, and you come in, you're new in the business, like, all right, what do I got to do next, right? Well, be accountable. Be accountable by showing up to the meeting and our webinars at least twice a week. Not because you have to, but because you know that's what you need to do to win. Truth is the only safe ground to stand on. Elizabeth Candy Stanton. At the end of the day, you got to measure where you're going, okay? That weekly scorecard is so important. Measure activity, not results. Does that mean you're not supposed to measure results? That's not what we're saying. We're saying the lead indicator, that's that activity. That is what's going to drive the result. Put more emphasis on how many appointments did you do. Well, I didn't get any results this past week. How many appointments did you do? Oh, I did one. Well, that's why. If you didn't have at least 5 appointments, how can you even expect a result? You can't, right? Well, I don't have any appointments. How many phone calls did you make? How many text messages? How many people did you go and see? How many new contacts did you make? Focus on the activity. What we find is that if you hit 85% of your activity, so if whatever that activity goal is, if you achieve 85% of it, you will accomplish the results that you're looking for. Number 13. I think this is where the challenge of allowing people to start our business on a part-time basis comes in, okay? I think letting people do this part-time is one of our greatest assets, but I also think it's one of the biggest challenges for why people don't succeed. Because I can join the business and be interested in it. Oh, I'm interested in it, but am I committed? Nothing happens unless you get committed. You must have commitment, okay? I've already talked about this. You got to have a strong desire. Read your plan daily. So when you create that plan of what you want to accomplish, it needs to be read on a daily basis, okay? Every single day, you've got to look at that. 5 minutes. Every single week, you have to plan. Usually most people do it on a Sunday before they get started on Monday. They'll spend 15 to 20 minutes every single week reflecting on what happened the past 7 days, what their goal was, what they actually accomplished, and then what exactly is they're going to do the following day. When they wake up in the morning, then what you're supposed to do, right, is review your goals for the day. And when you go to bed, review it again. So you spend 10 minutes a day. Think about 10 minutes of your entire day looking at what you really want, okay? What's going to really bring you true happiness and satisfaction and confidence is achieving that goal. Keystone actions, calls, appointments, attendance at meetings, etc. Count the costs. Look, change is uncomfortable. They say you want to create an enemy? Real simple, just tell somebody to change, okay? That's why you have to be the one that changes. But you have to also be realistic and there's common sense involved. You got to identify the cost. If you're married and now you've been working 40, 50 hours a week, and now you're going to add another 10 to 20 hours, okay? Your spouse, and you need to be at least on the same page, or they need to know what you want to do, why you're doing it, okay? Your kids, right? You got to lay out what the costs are going to be, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to get started and you're never going to finish. So make sure you identify the costs, and I'll tell you what, IWI, it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. When you sell out, and you make this thing you build this thing up to make it your full-time business, and you get basically control back of your life, or your goal is to pay off debt and become financially independent, man, that's when everything I know changes, right? Act on commitments, not feelings. Our feelings go up and down every day. Some of us are a little more emotional than others, but we're all emotional creatures. That's why it's so important that you read your plan. Because if I just had a bad day or had a bad week, you can have a bad month. If I don't continue to review my goals, if I don't continue to see why I'm doing this in the first place, I will fall off track, right? I've got to, if I want to lose weight, right? Whatever it is, it's the same thing. So your plan will keep you focused. That's why it's so important to read it daily. Number 14, so important. You study anybody successful. So Michael Jordan is one of the guys that's referenced all the time, right? From Chicago. No matter where you go in the world of sports, no matter what sport, everybody knows who Michael Jordan is. Michael Phelps, the famous Olympian. I think he won 9 gold medals and won the last Olympics, right? You've got to understand that there's going to be a price to pay, but you've got to be clear, and you have to have intentional imbalance. The challenge of work-life balance is without question one of the most significant struggles faced by modern man and woman. Stephen Covey. He's the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Incredible, incredible man. He passed on, but this gentleman was, he left his legacy. His books, his work was very powerful, right? The other part of this, Jack Welch. If you don't know who he is, the famous CEO of GE. He's the reason why GE became so successful. There's no such thing as work-life balance. There are work-life choices, and you make them, and they have consequences. So you've got to understand, this is the part where knowing that goal and that desire and what you really want to accomplish. That's why it's important if you have people that are dependent upon you, right? You got a family. They need to understand why you're making those sacrifices, why you're making those changes. And it's ultimately because we want better than we have right now. Because ultimately, you know what? If you're not happy yourself, I promise you, you're not going to help anybody around you be happy. It's like the famous thing I always say, when you're on an airplane, what do they say? You've got to put your mask on first before you put on your kids. Man, I first heard that, and I'm like, be kind of crazy. I see my kid there. Well, if I pass out, obviously I can't help him out, right? It's the same concept. We have to build up ourselves first. We got to become strong ourselves first, so that then we can lead a team and, of course, help our own family become successful. So us being happy and accomplished and successful, whatever that means for you, it's going to make a significant impact, okay? So now what I want to do is go a little bit into the action plan of this, okay? The 12-week year getting started. Okay, how do I apply now all this information? Well, the first thing is you got to have a long-term vision, okay? So one of the things in the exercise is you need to write down your aspirational vision. What is it that you aspire to, okay? What is it that you're trying to accomplish, right? So for one of my goals, okay, is to continue to travel the world. I would like to go to South America this year, right? That's one of the things that's on my goal this year, okay? I want to achieve optimal health by reducing my body fat by down to 10%. I don't think I've ever been there, but that's one of my goals, right? If I don't put it down there, it's never going to happen, right? And I'm working on that. I notice when I read that, instead of loading up on that bread every day that I love to do, guess what? I'm more conscious of that. If I don't read that goal, I can go right back into my bad habits, right? Save and invest $100,000 in 2020, okay? So that's some of my aspirational visions, okay? Next, you go to the 12-week goal now, right? So 12 weeks is what? The next 3 months, right? So what is your goal by March 31st, 2020? So this is what you have to take the time to do. This is so important because if you don't have a goal, once again, nothing's going to happen in this business, okay? So my goal, I just did my personal goal here, is to write 60,000 personal points, that's revenue, profit to the business, and enroll 6 new business partners. So 60,000 personal points over the next 12 weeks and 6 new business partners. In addition to that, I'm going to acquire $1 million in new assets under management This week alone, I did 110. So I'm on track right now to achieve that. Okay. And then my weight, I want to drop about 5 pounds and so on and so forth. Right. So that's it. So then right underneath that, okay, why? Why is your 12-week goal important to you? If you hit it, how might you celebrate? Because if I don't hit that goal, I'm not going to hit my bigger goal. There's no way I can accomplish the bigger goal that I have unless I hit this first one here over these next 12 weeks, which I have to look at like a year. I have to have a sense of urgency. That's the whole point. That I have to achieve that goal like March 31st, 2020 is December 31st, 2020. That's the shift in mindset. Because if I think about it like I thought about it last year, March is going to roll around and be like, I got another 3 more quarters to go. And that's why we failed to achieve our goal by the end of the year. Okay. We go on to the next part of this exercise. And we can get this out to all of you if you don't have it already. Okay. Goal number 1. Right? So my goal number 1 is 60,000 net personal points and add 6 new business partners. So weekly actions. What I do here now is I've got to schedule 10 appointments per week. Okay. Schedule 10 appointments per week. So now what I'm going to look at is when I schedule and then it's due each week. Okay. So each week when it's due, I have to look back and say, how many I have? Well, I had 3. Well, didn't hit my goal. Okay. How many did I schedule? Okay. Conduct 3 client reviews per week. Schedule 2 3-hour sharing blocks. So I got to spend 6 hours just minimum in the week just reaching out to personal prospects. Okay. One of the things I got to do for myself, for my business, I got to send out letters to my clients for my reviews and so on and so forth. Okay. Update pipeline of pending business partners. So we all have to have an updated share list of people we want to talk to. Now we go to goal number 2, acquire 1 million in new AUM. Okay. So I want to acquire. So I've got my points, right? That's basically my insurance annuity business that drives the protection part of what we do. Very important. But now for me, also, because I have the license, my second goal is acquiring 1 million new assets under management. So in order to do that, one of the things I've got to do is I've got to review my existing client book of business. And I need to identify those that would be a good candidate for the Trans 1 or Trans Alpha platform. Meet with 2 investment prospects per week. So if I'm doing all appointments that are geared just to protect families, then I'm not going to build up my AUM business. I've got to do both. If you notice, that's why I have 2 goals. Contact the big 5 prospects. So what's the big 5? You know what's going to help me with my AUM? If I go and partner with some tax preparers, some mortgage brokers, some people who are in the property and casualty business, an attorney, other professionals that are maybe looking to be interested in doing a referral partnership. Okay. Use the campaign manager. Create a campaign around the investment part of the business, right? So whatever your goal is, once again, the weekly actions, we call that a tactic. That's the grind part. If you want to go, that's the part where the amygdala, I pick up the phone. I'm like, I got to call that guy. Is he going to answer? Right? Oh, I don't know what's going to happen. They're going to say, no, what are they going to think? And then but then I say, man, I want to accomplish my goal. I'm balancing that 2 parts of my brain, right? That's where the real business happens, everybody. It's the tactic where the business really happens. All this other stuff is to make sure we stay on track. Okay. Goal number 3, that's my personal commitment goal. That's my health goal. So I'm going to work out 4 times a week. I'm going to reduce my carb intake. Take the boys out, right? It's important for my personal commitment. I'm going to make sure I take my boys out and do something fun with them at least once a week. Have a meal with my parents. I don't know, they could be here another 30 years. They might not be, right? Whatever it is your goal, guys. It's just your personal thing, okay? Read 30 minutes a day. And for me, meditate is very important, right? Now, underneath, towards the bottom of this, as I wrap up here, before you put your plan down, ask yourself these questions. What will you struggle with to take these actions? The truth, right? Right? Oh, I'm going to do all these wonderful things. Makes me feel really good. But I need to understand what are going to be the roadblocks, okay? I will struggle with sticking to a schedule. What about you? You kind of know, are you the kind of person that as soon as somebody disrupts you, you get a text message all of a sudden you went from your 3-hour block of total focus to be like, oh, what's going on Facebook? Or what is it that somebody needs? Oh, somebody needs me. I got to respond right away. I got to respond right. And that takes me away from my 3, unless it's a real emergency, right, everybody? That's just distracting us. And with the problem with the smartphone is it's the most distraction. As great of a tool it is, it's also the source of all distractions for most people. The biggest distraction. How many times we pick up our phone and look at it, right? We got to put it on do not disturb during our 3-hour block and focus in on our actions, okay? My struggle, I put it right under. I will struggle with checking my phone during my 3-hour block. It's exactly my challenge, okay? I know I will. But by reading this every day, I will remind myself not to, okay? I'm going to struggle with eating carbs because I love bread. What could I say, right? What will you do to overcome those struggles? I will read my 12-week plan every week, every Sunday, and I will spend 15 to 30 minutes planning every week and every single day before I go to bed and when I wake up in the morning. That is the implementation part of this business. So I already gave you my examples. This is like a little template here that we can get out to you. Look, what I noticed in this business and really mentoring thousands of people over the years is that we are either heavily weighted in being emotionally, like we're always taking action, even if that action is not a focused action. We'll go from one feeling to the next feeling and we get easily distracted. Or I have the other people who spend a lot of time planning, like they know exactly what they're going to do every minute of the day and everything is so perfectly planned out, but then they don't really do the action part. And the reality is executing requires us to balance why we're doing it with what we need to do to win. And that is ultimately, that's the greatest market differentiator, is our ability to execute, especially in the era of information age. Everybody has access to information, everybody. It's what we're going to do with it. This is my personal operating system that I'm building into my life, and I don't see how I would change it ever in the future, because what I want to accomplish, this thing really addresses every single concern. And then, of course, plug that in with our platform, and we can achieve whatever we want. So I'm excited about this, and I'm excited about these next, I guess, 11 weeks to go for my 12-week year.